Hello, Scott Blackman here. Hope everybody's doing well. I am going to show you some things that I have learned either on my own or with the help of the TEC folks in setting up tests to be taken for online courses, whether it be in the testing center or using RPNow. So, because this has been a little bit confusing, and as you guys know, we don't have as much TEC support right now as we would like. But if you go to assignments and quizzes, okay, you should have 2 copies of every test. So you can see here, Unit 1 test, there's 2 copies of it. You want one that requires the Respondus LockDown browser. That's the one that's taken at one of our testing centers using a computer. And the reason why we use LockDown browser is because when you enable that, it prevents the students from pulling up another browser to use Wikipedia or what have you. So, and the testing centers are very adamant now that they want us to use LockDown browser on any test that's given online in the testing center. So we're going to look at this one first. So if we go to, and I'm going to show you how you can enable LockDown browser. So if we go to edit here, so again, this is the one that the student would take at the testing center. Okay, so if you go to restrictions, right, enter your due date. I found that if you enter a due date, a start date, and an end date, and have that due date and end date at the same time, it helps a lot. As far as compatibility, I always display in my calendar. So this is what's confusing. Under the, what tab is this? Restrictions tab, there used to be, under here, security options, you used to be able to just check these boxes if you wanted to use the LockDown browser. Now you can't do that, okay, and I'm going to show you how to do that in a second, okay. Of course, if they're taking it at the testing center or using RPNow, you want a password. So you enter that here, and then timing and all that you guys are aware of. An assessment, I'm not going to go over that, or objectives. So if you go here to submission views, okay, this is how you have to do this in order for the LockDown browser to work, okay. Mine is set up as a default view. If you haven't set that up yet, you have to, okay, or you can't enable the LockDown browser. So I forget exactly how it looks before you set up the default view. I think there's a button here that says like add a view or add a default view. So you can look and see what mine looks like here if we click on default view. In this text box here, you can just add anything. It can be one word, or you see I've added your quiz has been submitted successfully. As long as you put something in that text box, you can enable the LockDown browser, okay? And then here under view details, I just left all that stuff as it already was, okay? So we're going to cancel here and go back. So again, here's that Unit 1 test requires Respondus LockDown browser. So, okay, so on this one, LockDown browser has been enabled, and the way I did that is you click on this LockDown browser tab here, okay, and it usually takes a long time to load, so I'm going to just pause this for a second. Okay, so now waiting forever for that for it to load. Now it's going to show you all of the tests for which you could enable LockDown browser, okay, and again, you have to go to that submission views and enter something in the text box, or else it won't appear here, okay. So let's say this Bio 110 final, right? It's the one they take in the testing center. So I want to enable LockDown browser, and you can see that I've already required that to happen. To do that, you just click on this and then settings, and then you want to require Respondus LockDown browser, right? And then enter the same password that you entered when you set up the quiz in the first place. Okay, so I'm going to cancel this out. Okay, go back to man. So now I have enabled Respondus LockDown browser, and when you do that, by the way, it automatically will add to the name of the test requires Respondus LockDown browser. Okay, going back to manage quizzes. So like I said, you want 2 copies of each test, right? One for the testing center that requires LockDown browser, another one for the students to take at home or remotely using RPNow, okay, which they have to pay money and they have to have a webcam set up, and you guys probably know about RPNow. So this one cannot have Respondus LockDown browser enabled, or they won't be able to take the test, okay? So do not enable the LockDown browser for the test that the RPNow students use, okay? And by the way, it's very easy when you make this Unit 1 test to make a copy of it, okay? It's very easy to do. Just go up here to More Actions and copy, and you can make an exact replica of it, okay? But again, one copy is for the testing center that requires LockDown browser. The other one can't have LockDown browser on it, but they will not be able to use RPNow to take the test, okay? Let me show you a couple more things real quick. The way I've set things up, I have in my content, I have a RPNow for me that I've put as a draft so the students can't see it, right? So this is what RPNow looks like for me when I bring it up, okay? And it's going to show all these tests have already been registered for RPNow for this section, and it has the start date and the end date, password, etc. Right? The way I did that was register new exam. You want to hit native LMS exam, and then proctored, of course, is how the vast majority of ours will be. If you're doing a practice exam that doesn't need to be proctored, you can hit this one, okay? And I've already imported all of my RPNow tests, so you can see those there. This blue thing here says practice exam, so that one doesn't require proctor, but the rest of them here with the green lock symbol, those do require a proctor. One little point to remember here too, if you make any changes, you have to sync it up, okay? So if I ever make any changes to any of this stuff, I just will hit sync all, and that will sort of update everything, okay? Kind of prevent some confusion there, okay? So if you go back to content, I also have a module RPNow for students, okay? There's a user guide, and I'll show you how to get that in just a second, but that's very good. It tells the students exactly what they need to do to be able to use RPNow, how to register, how to access the test. It has technical support information there as far as contact numbers and such. So that's the user guide. This is what it would look like for the students. They would click on RPNow for students, and this is what's gonna look like for them. Okay, you can see the only test that's available now for them is the practice test for RPNow, because I haven't. It's not August 26th yet, so none of the unit tests are available. Okay. By the way, if you're kind of wondering how to import these, the RPNow and such, if you go to Edit Course, I don't know exactly how to do this, but it involves clicking this External Learning Tools, because I guess RPNow is an external learning tool. But the good thing is once you import that into one class, you can then export or import to a different section. Okay, let me show you where all that RPNow stuff is available though. If you go to this BUS 152 faculty resource site, and then click on Content, and Table of Contents, D2L assignments, quizzes, okay, and then Remote Proctor Now resources. There's a lot of good resources here for both you and the student. The user guide that I showed you that I always put for the students is here, RPNow student resource. So that's the same document that I just showed you. Okay, so it's kind of complicated with LockDown browser and RPNow. Main thing to remember, if they take it to the testing center, our LockDown browser has to be enabled. If they take it using RPNow, the LockDown browser cannot be enabled, or they won't be able to take the test. And again, last thing I'll just mention, again, just to kind of hammer it home, When you go to assignments and quizzes, the way that you set up the LockDown browser is you have to hit that LockDown browser tab, which it's not showing you on this one. Let me show you real quick, just so that you'll understand what I'm talking about again. Let's go back to this course, assignments, quizzes, all right, LockDown browser. So again, you have to use that instead of under manage quizzes. They've changed the way that you do it. Okay. Sorry this video is longer than I wanted it to be. Let me know if you have any questions about that. I'll be happy to answer.